It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our discussion panel session entitled the AI Odyssey, the ISO 42001's journey across digital nations, and I would like to take you on to that journey. And just remember, the Odyssey, he started in Greece and was driving around through the Turkish coast and was finding a lot of challenges. And our Odyssey will today start with a short joke. That, by the way, was generated by AI upon my request. Yeah. So the one guy is asking, "Are you afraid of the progress of artificial intelligence?" The lady is answering, "No, actually not. I'm more afraid about the regression of the natural." That could be the motto of our session today. So just let's stay with the AI, but let's not lose our natural intelligence. We're starting with some introduction. Today we start at the threshold of a new era, actually, in the governance and digital governance, as the European Union did issue the Artificial Intelligence Act. This is a comprehensive legal framework aiming to ensure that AI systems are designed, developed, deployed, distributed, trained, and used by the companies in a manner that is safe, that is transparent, and that is accountable. Yeah. That legislation represents a significant step forward in the journey towards utilizing the power of artificial intelligence while safeguarding fundamental rights and freedoms of people, of the guys for whom the artificial intelligence has been created. Yeah. As we navigate the complex landscape of AI regulations, we are also guided by the international norm, the standard ISO 42001 on artificial intelligence management systems. But this goes in a parallel way. So we have the law on one side, the Act, the EU Act, and we have the norm, the international standard, on the other side. That standard provides us a structured approach to managing AI-related activities, offering organizations a blueprint, like a guideline, like a course for the Odyssey, for implementing practices that meet ethical, legal, and technical requirements, which are again imposed by the AI Act. However, the path to compliance is full of challenges, like the Odyssey. Companies that fall within the scope of the AI Act must deal with obligations which include risk assessment, include data governance, risk and compliance, and transparency measures. And the EU AI Act categorizes AI systems based on the risk of level they pose, placing heavier regulatory burdens on high-risk applications. I would like to point you at that location to the workshop D, which will be covered by Grammy just after the lunch, that will actually focus on high-risk applications. Non-compliance to that act will impose substantial fines, reputational damage, and also legal consequences. To make it important for organizations to thoroughly understand and adhere to these regulations, the risks of neglecting the AI Act, it actually is beyond just legal penalties. Companies failing to align their AI strategies with the EU AI Act requirements risk falling behind the rapidly evolving market, where trust and reliability is becoming key differentiators on the market. In the digital economy, a commitment to ethical AI practices is not just a regulatory requirement. Nowadays, it becomes rather a competitive advantage. So we embark today on the discussion with our panelists, and let us dive into some details, but not very deep details, please, exploring compliance challenges and also strategies to accomplish these. Yeah, thanks once again for joining us and helping us to master that Odyssey. Yeah? Let me introduce the panelists first. From my side, my name is Krepki. I have studied computer science in the 2000s in Berlin. I'm coming from Germany and was working on artificial intelligence. So my master's thesis was on artificial intelligence. Then I was graduating, making a dissertation also on artificial intelligence. Designing, implementing brain-computer interface, grasping neuroelectrical activities from the brain cortex, controlling virtual processes, computer games by the power of mind. But then I was changing to information security, to cybersecurity, and I was developing neural algorithms, AI algorithms for grasping the anomalies in network traffic, self-organizing Cisco routers who were able, or Cisco intrusion detection prevention systems who were able to grasp special abnormal activities. Yeah. I skipped the certificates and PCB, whatever relations, and our key panelists are here to my left. You can meet Dominique BOURRA. He's an expert in governance, risk and compliance training for executives. He's a professor at the School of Economic Warfare with significant experience as cybersecurity consultant for the strategic division of a major telecommunication group. He is a PCB trainer specializing in 27001. His career spans across USA, France, Middle East, and Africa. He served as a president of the AI Cybersecurity and Quantum Commission for the Chamber of Commerce. Dominique is passionate in quantum computing, AI, and their intersection with cybersecurity. He's a keynote speaker in Cyber Africa Forum in Abidjan and at the Quantum Day of the Cyber Week in 2024. His deep interest in the convergence of AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, IT, and cognitive sciences. As the next, you can meet Nathalie Claes. She's an experienced professional with strong background in information security, data protection, and what's so special in quality management. And this is the most important point in AI governance. She has several assignments as a CISO, DPO, and external auditor in information security and quality management, implementing and monitoring such management systems for various IT and broadcasting companies. Nathalie has led development and implementation of security frameworks, including GDPR, NIS2, and driven transformational changes projects across multiple industry sectors. She is recognized for her expertise in AI governance, having developed and implemented AI governance frameworks and conducted risk assessments to ensure ethical development of AI systems. As a guest lecturer and postgraduate AI compliance officer program at PXL Hasselt in Belgium, where she's coming from, Nathalie focuses on training professionals to ensure organizations implement AI systems in a reasonable and compliant manner. And last but not least, we have Olasoji Agboola. He is an IT and cybersecurity leader with more than 30 years of experience specializing in governance, risk, and compliance, another very important topic in AI management. He holds a bachelor degree in computer engineering and an MBA from Cranfield University in the UK. Soji is recognized for his expertise in formulating brilliant cybersecurity policies, implementing and operationalizing cybersecurity risk management in practice, ensuring regulatory compliance across critical industry sectors like oil and gas and energy, and construction and banking and finance, where AI is very much used. He holds multiple certifications, inter alia ISO 27001 as lead implementer, lead auditor, and also many other certificates. Actually, I received a list, and the list is very, very long. He led multi-jurisdictional cybersecurity programs, helping organizations to build robust and resilient cybersecurity capabilities. And Dear panelists, I have prepared some questions, some tricky questions, and they are not focusing on information security. They are focusing on quality, on critical sectors, on the proper governance of AI systems. Yeah, and that is what we need to make our journey to master our Odyssey. And the first question, Dominique, could you please bring us up to date how the AI Act did influence the development and issuance of the norm? That is what I would expect would be the normal way. But I remember when I was sitting in my AIMS course, PCB course on ISO 42001, we heard that on that day when I was doing the exam, the AI Act was issued by the European Union. So what was the first one? The law or the norm? Or was the PCB so quickly that they prepared and issued the course before the law came up? So what's the implications on that?
Thank you. Thank you, Roman, for your remarkable introduction and preparation. And thank you, PCB, and all of you for attending this very important conference. Concerning the EU framework and the norms are, of course, complementary. On one hand, we have the regulatory requirements based on risks levels with unacceptable high risk. Very interesting to pass across the list of these unacceptable risks. We may have a lot of remarks about that. And of course, high risk to address. Then we have the norm in order to implement compliance, in order to fit with ethical requirements, in order to avoid systemic impacts, because of course the AI has some new influence on the way we handle activities. So usually, historically, we were based on natural intelligence, as you said, with some regression maybe. And now we use this artificial intelligence, which is impacting at all the layers of human activities and corporate activities and critical infrastructures activities. I'm teaching in several schools, among them Economic Warfare School, and I like to make things simple, okay? So we start, whether it's about information security, I know it's not the topic today, but it's linked. Whether we talked about information security, whether we talk about quality, whether we talk about AI, we start from data, okay? Data are the bricks in order to build information. If data is poisoned, AI is useless, okay, with huge consequences. It's the same for information security, it's the same for any activity. Then information can be poisoned. Information can be transformed in malinformation, misinformation, disinformation, you know better than me. Then information, what for? What for? You know, sometimes students are unable to understand what is information for. Information is useful to take proper decisions. It's about making good decisions. So you see here, artificial intelligence coming and the necessity of having regulatory framework, implementation framework, because it's about proper decisions. Why do we need to make good decisions? In order to keep control. If you need to remind one word of today, it's keep control for your corporation, for you, for your personal life as an expert, for your government. Keep control. Why do we need to keep control? And the answer is very sharp. It's about survival. You keep control to survive. If you don't keep control, you have a problem, you have an issue. Okay? Your survival is at risk. So that's for my high-level introduction. Why should it be so simple? Because we talk to CEOs, we talk to high management level, and sometimes they are lost in translation with. And one of our of our speakers from Australia, she made a very, very good point about all the engineers coming with a lot of technical information over specified, brilliant next generation AI quantum stuff, and the CEOs are lost. They are even lost with information security. You know, from the field, I can testify they don't understand information security, so they understand even less artificial intelligence. So that's why we need to talk to CEOs. And when you talk to CEOs, you know, the TLP protocol, you are familiar with the TLP protocol? Traffic light protocol, 3 colors, very simple. You know, you speak to children. So that's the only way CEOs and high-level management can understand TLP protocol. So make things simple, speak about control, speak about the risks, poisoning at any level, artificial intelligence, opening a huge field of improvements, but huge risks which are presented by the EU AI Act, unacceptable risks, high risk, and then you can talk with your CEO, you can take decisions, and hopefully keep control.
Thank you, Nathalie. Can you please clarify the interrelation between the AI Act and the international norm? What is it going on? And the international norm ISO 42001's.
Sure, no problem. As Dominique already explained, not really sure which one came first, if PECB influenced the European government in producing the EU AI Act. I think Tim's influence goes that far, but not sure. Both of them are really risk-based, as Dominique already explained. The EU AI Act talks about high risk, unacceptable risk, and like in many of the ISO standards, the ISO 42001 does the same thing. It all starts with conducting a good risk assessment, understanding what are the risk scenarios that are threatening your organization, that are threatening your AI systems, where we have the same thing in information security, but AI goes a little bit further, and we need to talk about transparency, about human oversight, about how are the individual rights of human beings being protected. Because I'm probably best placed in this panel because I'm not that technical as my fellow panelists. I do understand that AI is the next funny, geeky thing that a lot of developers go overboard with, but that brings a lot of challenges as well, because it's not because an AI system can do something that we should be doing it. So that's where both the EU AI Act and the ISO 42001 really go hand in hand in really regulating that, and where the European EU Act is really giving that legal framework and poses penalties and so forth, which CEOs understand, of course. They understand if they need to wear a black and white striped pajama, they understand the risk there. But really the EU, the ISO 42001 is really giving you that framework and understanding what is it that we need to put in place to get that transparency clear, to get that human oversight clear. So they really go hand in hand. We're both focusing on risk management, on human oversight, on transparency. So it really goes hand in hand.
Thank you for your response. And before I jump to Soji related question, I'd like to make a very old AI related joke, saying that AI-equipped mobile vacuum cleaners, you know, that devices which drive through your houses and clean, they will be analyzing their performance by AI when they have to go out, when they have to charge, and they at some place or sometime earlier or later they will recognize that the root cause of the dust they have to clean are people. So they might start fighting us, isn't it? So, Soji, what can we do, and what are the advantages and the challenges of AI, and what can we do in order to prevent that some vacuum cleaners are fighting us people?
Well, Okay, thank you very much for that introduction, and I want to say thank you to PECB for the opportunity given to me to speak here today. And thanks for that joke. I don't think we can fight vacuum cleaner; they are coming for us. We should just be ready. But joke apart, I think if you want to talk about the advantages of AI, the ISO 42001 standard, and following the EU Act, they come about with so many benefits for organizations and for individuals. For organizations who want to comply with the EU Act, leveraging the norm goes a long way in helping you to achieve that. There's no doubt about that, because if you look at the two of them, there's so many things in common. And one of the things that is very beneficial for the ISO 42001 is that it's very, if you look at the structure, it's similar to some of the norms, some of the standards that have been in establishment, whether it's ISO 27001 or the quality one 9001. There's so many similarities. So if you are an organization where you have all of these frameworks or some of these frameworks implemented already, the chances of you adapting ISO 42001 is very high, because you have the structure, you have the framework that is already running. Perhaps you have even gone through certification. So you have the building blocks already. So that's number one advantage. It's not a standard that just came out of thin air. It's been structured very closely with some of the his cousins standards. So that's number one advantage. Then the other advantage is that as business, one of the crucial aspects of business is trust. It's trust. How do you want your customers to trust you? How do you want your partners to trust you? How do you want employees to trust you? And one of the benefits of ISO 42001, if you could implement that, is a norm, is a framework that has been defined and structured in a way that if you do that, people will take you serious, that you have implemented AI governance in a standard way, not in a wishy-washy manner way. Not some people just wake up tomorrow and say, let's do AI governance in this way. It took many years to develop. About 50 countries participated, and so therefore that's number two advantage, the trust. If you have that, if you speak to your businesses, we use AI. And we use AI ethically. We use AI by following the norms. We have structured our AI management systems in accordance with ISO 42001. Then you gain their trust, and that keeps you in business. The third one is you reduce the risk of legal impact. We just talked about the EU Act. It's an act with heavy penalty, with heavy repercussions if you do not follow those acts, those articles, those legal requirements. But because ISO 42001, as we said, which one of them came first, it's been structured largely to ensure if you have that implemented, the risk of you having legal exposures of not meeting the EU Act becomes highly reduced. And you can go on and on as to different benefits of that. And of course, the other benefit is that you have if you are a company that deals heavily with third parties, right? You have common language to talk about. If you speak to your third party that we would like you, because we take AI management system very seriously, because we want to meet the EU Act in a sustainable way, they are able to implement that as well, because you're not going to be giving them a standard that is difficult to follow. You're giving them a standard that has been developed in a structured way. So the benefits of implementing ISO 42001 in your journey of meeting the EU AI Act is enormous, and those are just the four key ones that come to mind.
Thank you. And as I see my customers from various industry sectors, I need that the CISOs are appointed with the role of the AI manager often because the manager or the top management cannot distinguish a lot. Is it a security topic? Is it a data protection topic? Is it AI? Where does it fall in? Does it fall into compliance? They say, oh, I have a CISO. He's doing anyway, he's not doing anything all the day, so he can take one more job, AI manager or AI policy owner, whatever. So they are quite young currently. So one from the digital nations. How should different digital nations, young nations, deal with the implementation of the ISO 42001, such that the impact of the ISO norm is on the design and the deployment of a new AI systems in the organizations, especially in the critical sector, maybe, like healthcare, finance, transportation, would lead us to extremely positive results. What about guys?
Well, just my humble point of opinion is that I actually see it as an advantage having those younger digital nations stepping in, because they have not been poisoned by the old guys who have run the world for like over the last 100 years, and they think they've invented water. And they think they all know best. They for sure don't understand IT or artificial intelligence, like Dominique already said. Sometimes even the traffic light protocol is still too difficult. So I do think that those digital nations that are now stepping in are on the advantage for this, because they can start with a blank piece of paper, which gives them the opportunity to adapt and adhere to those new regulations from the beginning. And those digital nations are also open to that new legislation. They understand what needs to be done to get a place at the table, to get a place at the table to play the game. And I do think, or at least that's my hope, that those countries will step up and will show the old man at the boardroom.
Dominique, as an expert in quantum computing technology, how can we strategically integrate that technology, that advancement in quantum computing, to existing AI government frameworks like ISO 42001, ensuring that such emerging technologies enhance AI capabilities while we shall maintain the ethical and operational safeguards of AI?
Okay, maybe first takeaway in order to answer properly and simply to your question. AI Act, it's law, you comply or not. Norm 42001, it's a process, PDCA, plan, do, check, act. It's about continuous improvement, permanent assessment, permanent control. Speaking about quantum, the huge surprise when I'm teaching to digital natives, you may assume they know everything about AI, everything about quantum. They don't. They don't. Quantum is not yet here, but it's somehow here in some military laboratories. I think about the DARPA, if it's familiar for you, very advanced entity. They built internet. Quantum is here, but it's not here. If I talk with some of my colleagues from the French intelligence, and we have huge debate, they say, no, quantum is not for tomorrow, not even for the day after tomorrow. Don't expect anything for 10 years. And in some other advanced countries, I speak with experts and they tell me we already implement post-quantum algorithms. So the key takeaway is as follows. You maybe have heard about harvest now, decrypt later, meaning all the critical information is encrypted, right? Speaking about critical infrastructures, about government, everything is encrypted at the proper level, okay? There is no issue about that. This information is transmitted, let's say, through satellites or fiber optics, undersea networks, and everything's fine. That's one of the debates I have. So some of my fellow experts in France, they tell me there is no issue with safety, security about undersea fiber optic cables. In some other countries, they say we already implement post-quantum protection. Why? Because there are some means to eavesdropping, to espionage this undersea, for example, undersea fiber optics cables. It's quite possible to catch this encrypted information that you cannot decipher today. But in 5 years, in 10 years, all this information that has been stolen will be deciphered. Part of the information will still be relevant, not obsolete, and critical. So that's why we talk about harvest now, decrypt later. So a lot of information encrypted today will be deciphered tomorrow, will be decrypted tomorrow, thanks to quantum. So it means if you don't implement right now, it's for critical infrastructure. If you don't implement right now the post-quantum algorithms, your information is violated. Okay. Today. So it's a bit tricky to understand for some CEOs not familiar with this quantum breakthrough, but that's a reality. There is a connection between the present day and the future, and the bridges. Your current information is already violated in the future. I hope it's clear.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that response. And I see it is truly advantageous to utilize some norm like the ISO 42001 as a framework to ensure compliance with some act. And I draw the relation between the GDPR and ISO 27701 or 27001 adopted by the 27701. So there is a law on one side that European countries have to adhere to, and there is a framework on how to implement it. But if you just implement the framework, it is not a truth that you are compliant with the law. Yeah, because the framework, it's a management system. It's an integrated management system. It's like a cabinet with some drawers, and if you have the cabinet, you are compliant with the framework. But if you don't put anything into the drawers, then your cabinet is empty. So you didn't have implemented the law. So you have to look at both sides. And the question to you, as it is practical to use that framework, ISO 42001, to implement the compliance with the Act, what lessons can be drawn from the previous experience with GDPR implementations using 27001 and reached by 27701 tools to ensure compliance with GDPR requirements? Can we go the same way with the EU AI Act and ISO 42001?
Yeah, I think to an extent we can because when the GDPR was published, it was also a world that we've never traveled before, and we find ourselves at the same junction now with the EU AI Act. And I think we can learn from how we went through that journey. And if you were part of the ecosystem that helped in implementing compliance to GDPR, you could see so many lessons that we can draw from that in also leveraging the ISO 42001 norm in driving compliance to the EU Privacy Act. One of the things that you could see from the GDPR, and if you look at GDPR, if you pair GDPR and ISO 27001 and you pair EU AI Act and ISO 42001, we can learn from that relationship. Number one, the GDPR is kind of is very central and heavy on risk management, and that is the bread and butter for ISO 27001. So when GDPR was released, there were things about understanding the risk of the key currency in the GDPR is PII, is the personally identifiable information. And what's the risk? How do you manage the risk in a sustainable manner, not as an afterthought, not as we are meant to do risk, not that we are meant to register something in the risk register. How do you make risk management a culture, a way of life? That is what ISO 27001 promotes. That is what it preaches, and that kind of supported the approach in addressing GDPR expectations on risk management. So that's number one. Number two is about the GDPR. I think I can't remember correctly now, maybe Article 35 thereabout. It talks about Data Privacy Act. That means, Data Privacy Impact Assessment, DPIA. And we leverage ISO 27001 in creating the process, the documentations, the approach in doing DPIA in a consistent and in a sustainable manner. And that went a long way to putting a robust way of looking at DPIA, not just you do DPIA the way you like, somebody does it the way they like, but following the ISO 27001's, I think one of the clauses, I think one of the annex, maybe Annex 6 thereabout, is about doing impact assessment. So we can learn from that on using that experience of leveraging ISO 27001 to meet the requirement of GDPR, and we can use that for, if you look at the EU Act as well, is also very, very heavy on AI system impact assessment. And interestingly, ISO 42001 also goes that way of recommending impact assessment. So you can see similarities around that. And I think the other very crucial area of experience in terms of GDPR and ISO 27001 is the incident management. GDPR recommends, at least for any breaches, to be communicated in 72 hours, and then most people who implemented incident response system or process, they leverage ISO 27001, and we can reuse that for EU AI Act on communicating on serious incidents. There's an article on the EU Act on communicating serious incidents. We can leverage similar requirements of 42001 in addressing that. So there's so many lessons we can learn, and so that's why many people are not as nervous. If you the frenziness and the nerve when GDPR was released was thicker than it is now, because we've been there. We have some experience that we can use. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that was great. I'm actually really lucky today to have Nathalie on board, because she is the only one non-technical person here, and that's why the question on why is human behavior, especially, is important in achieving compliance with the norm or end with the law, yeah, and how does it affect ethical implementation, and what role is playing the quality management system in that integrated management system for AI?
Yes, when I talk to a lot of CEOs, they all talk to me how amazing AI is and how it will be there and that it will be replacing us. And I do understand there will be a couple of jobs that will probably be replaced some way or another by an artificial intelligence. However, I do think that we have some advantages above artificial intelligence, even above the vacuum cleaners. The human behavior, AI systems at this moment in time are still lacking the ethical considerations, what we as a human being are able to do. It's even across nations, across different regions, across the world, we have different ethical considerations. So imagine how difficult it will be to get that implemented in something that has been programmed. How will that go? And there are a lot of exercises done with those self-driving cars to see, okay, what decision are you taking when you need to hit an old lady or a child? Which one are you going to choose? Even for us as a human being, both can be a valid answer, but okay. Not going into that. So how difficult will it be to get that implemented? So having that human being in the center, like a spider in the middle of a spider web, overseeing everything, deciding, getting insight in what are the risks of what we're doing here? What do we want to achieve? Do we need artificial intelligence to do so? What is our responsibility? What is our accountability to the users of the AI system? But also what is our accountability to our environment, to the society that we live in? Having that ethical consideration, deciding on how to approach that with a good, normal sense of urgency, understanding the risks and doing a good analysis on all risks that can be thought about. And of course, training our people, having everybody that necessary level of awareness of what does an AI do. I mean, we all went crazy about ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT and the number of hits that the thing gets. And it's amazing. I use it on a daily basis, but shouldn't we start thinking about, do we need ChatGPT to answer the question on how many minutes we need to bake a pizza? We can ask Google. It will probably cost less energy. That energy can be used for something else. So having that ethical consideration, that economical consideration, okay, do we need to do everything with the technology that we have at our hands, is something that will stay with a human being. Having that emotional consideration, going along with people. I see AI being deployed in hospitals, getting perhaps even a better diagnosis, but really having that face-to-face warm interaction with human beings. I don't want to go to a hospital talking to a robot telling me that I potentially have cancer and will die in 3 years. I would like to have a doctor, preferably a handsome one, that gives me a hug and says that everything will be okay. So until we get to that point, having that human interaction, I think it will be very important.
Such answers, we don't receive it by...
No? Perhaps they need to invite me to train the data sets.
Thank you, Nathalie. Great.
Doctor saying cancer. What if he's wrong or she's wrong and the AI is correct? How would you react? Because there are clinical trials now that AI is capable of diagnose more correct than the human being can do. I agree with you. I wouldn't do it either. However, in just a couple of years' time, AI will outperform human beings on that matter.
Yes, I agree. And by accident, last week I was at a conference with all doctors on that topic, and we obviously had the same discussion. And they came basically with the same answer. They said we will be using AI more and more in our practical, in our practice, because we now get like 15 minutes per person to do the analysis, have the talk, say you'll have cancer, it will be fine. We have a meeting now, and so that's what we're at now. There's a lot of pressure at healthcare where they see that really as an advantage in helping them placing or setting the diagnosis by still having that human interference and of course doing the check with the diagnosis, but having that follow-up, that human interaction, that how are you feeling, how is it affecting your mental health, what is your family. I'm more relating to that piece of the doctor part as in setting the diagnosis, but because I do agree that an AI will be able to analyze millions of data much faster than any human being will be, but having that human oversight in doing the cross-check, was it right, and having then the conversation and using the 15 minutes not only in analyzing the data, having the conversation and have 3 minutes left to see how did the patient react, using that 15 minutes in really following up and spending that time. But there will be an impact on how we finance, of course, our healthcare then, because that's the other side of the Bitcoin.
Sorry, before we come to the question part, let me do a sum up like about what we have spoken so far. As we are about to come to the end, let's try to draw a bottom line on what the participants were able to learn during the last 45 minutes about the governance and the ISO norm. Dominique, how would you summarize our discussion of the importance of proper AI governance as an expert in GRC?
You cannot address properly the AI challenge unless you are clear with quality, ISO 9001, 27001 for information security. There are less than 1,000 companies certified on 27001 in France. It's amazing. And 22001 for continuity of activity. Unless you are certified on these three, you cannot address properly AI challenges, so step by step.
Thank you. And Nathalie, what are your core takeaways for us as the people controlling AI systems? What are the core takeaways from our panel session?
Well, for me, it's the implementation of having that risk management and that ethical governance in place, focusing on principles like accountability, transparency, but also fairness, human rights, having that implemented in your management system, whether it's an integrated management system, combining all the standards that Dominique was referring to, or if you decide only to do the 42001, having that risk assessment, that ethical governance in place is for me the key takeaway, and that will already give you a head first on implementing the AI Act as well.
Incredible. That was like an AI system. That was one sentence, but really long and continuous.
I told you they had to ask me to do the training of the data sets.
Thank you. And Sochi, as a finally, could you give us a visionary statement of what potentials the regulation and the norm would give us for the future development of AI governance?
Yeah, I think I can say this from two perspectives. There will be more government governance of AI. EU Act is one. We'll begin to see more from different jurisdictions. We can see that even the niche AI framework has been influenced by the US AI Initiative Act of 2020. We see Google AI practice has been influenced by GDPR and California Privacy Act, and we've seen that from GDPR as well, where the many countries were adopting GDPR, like Brazil, like Japan, like South Africa, like India, and some of them were adopting that whether because the GDPR was a very good standard, or maybe to enable cross-border business transactions. So we'll be seeing more of those, and we'll be seeing more of non-governmental frameworks. For example, we talked about the norm. The norm is not a government framework. So we're going to see more of that as people, organizations, countries, entities try to put governance around AI, because the reach of the EU AI Act is just EU. And so therefore the reach of the ISO 42001 is heavily on AI management systems, which is fantastic. If you can't have that as a bedrock, you're in trouble. But there'll be even more technical one as well. And that is how we will see, as AI is developing, then governance will be developing in parallel, governmental and non-governmental ones.
Thank you very much. And I think we should open the panel discussion for the question for the audience.
Yes, good morning. My name is Faisal. I'm from Orlando, Florida. And to the gentleman's point, my cousin's a brain surgeon doing residency. And early days, the hospital blocked GPT. He went to the bathroom, put in all the symptoms, came back and looked like a rock star. So they couldn't figure it out, but it's just technology that you use with human intervention, right? So my question to you is this. As auditors, we are always preaching the message, right? strong passwords, but how many of us have our children's names and some characters in our passwords that we don't change and so forth? Not me, but the future of AI and 42001 is really, how do we apply that, and how do you see that being applied to audit firms and auditors? My firm, we have built a platform where we can do fully AI audits by a push of a button. What does that mean to auditors also being able to leverage that and being ISO 42001, or really practicing what they're preaching in their own practice? And the second part is, we just saw Meta launch their prototype on their glasses, augmented reality. You can think from your brain, I want to turn the stove on, and it has the capability of that's what they're practicing. So what is the next evolution in compliance for these future thinking technologies, which are all part of the ecosystem, right?
I think there will be a difference, at least that's my feeling, between US and Europe. There will be a big difference. I notice in a lot of US companies that want to play on the European market that they will get very hesitant on what is allowed. I agree that in US much more things are possible. To come back to your first question, as an auditor, I really want to talk to you about having the AI implemented in your system and in making it easier. It will help us for sure. I do think, like with the 27001, it will take some time. I think 27001, when I started, there were a couple of companies that heard something about it. I do think AI, or the 42001, will go much faster than the 27001, because ChatGPT is commonly used as one example. CEOs jump on it because it will bring the next big thing and it will bring millions of dollars of revenue. Probably not, but so it will go faster, but it will take time in us as auditors preaching the message when we're doing audits, but also getting those developers to that same level. And that's where I often see the biggest challenge also when implementing. They all think that I'm asking difficult questions. Secondly, they think that I'm against innovation, which is not the case. I want them to think before they act, and usually they're more the acting kind of people, which is okay. You need that. So, and the EU AI, because it will take until 2026, 2027 to get it fully implemented. I see with a lot of my customers telling me now, like, yeah, Nathalie, we know it's important, and the ethics, yeah, it's important. But you know what? Money is important as well. And it's only in place in 2026. So that gives us 2 years to do whatever we want. So let's go for it. So, and that's where I think that we will play a big role in saying, yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning, or I think good afternoon. No, almost, it's only good morning. This is Hassan from Bahrain. I have one comment and two questions. My first comment is about the laws and regulations. I don't think we will reach a point where there will be a contradiction between the laws and the framework of the ISO standards, because all of the ISO standards refer to the laws existing in the ecosystem so the organization can adapt. In fact, if there is an organization in an ecosystem where there is no laws, it is more difficult for them to implement. We've seen that in many clients. The standards tell them follow the laws or the laws that you decide to follow. And if there are no laws, they always comes to us what laws we should follow. It's more difficult for them. Okay, my two questions is, the first one, I think most of us will agree that the IA system will be the driving force for all the economy coming in the future. So don't you think that we will reach at a point where there will be a compromise on the information security for the benefits of the AI? Because eventually we have to go and dig inside the data. Is that going to compromise the confidentiality and integrity of the data itself, or basically maybe the confidentiality itself? Are we going to see some contradiction in the future or compromise? My second question is, I've heard many times that there is sort of disappointment about the ISO 42001. A lot of people, they say it's just a 9001 plus some controls. So do you think that we rushed very early to create that standard? Do we need sometimes to see the maturity of the system before suggesting this standard? Maybe this is a question for Natalia. Do you think it is enough, or it is the right time to establish that framework? Thank you.
So I'll go on your second question. Is it enough? Perhaps not, but like all standards, they evolve. When I started with 27001, with the 9001, we were still creating 10,000 pieces of paper to adhere to the 9001. Now we don't do that anymore. So technology evolves. Where we were 20 years ago, we're not today. So I think that the revision cycle that we will have on, where ISO usually takes the 5-year revision cycle, we might need to pick up the pace there a little bit. So I do think that it's good that we have already a standard that might help organizations implement or partially implement the European EU Act, and that already gives that perspective. On your remark on it's the 9001 with a couple of controls, well, then the 27001 is also the 9001 with a couple of controls, like 93 controls to be specific. So yes, but I also think that was the reasoning of the ISO to have that standardized or harmonized structure in place, having that same language, having that one language that management now finally gets to build on that, not to confuse them even more, coming back to the traffic light thing. So yes, it is the same thing, but you need to put on a different hat to have a look at it. So I think for now, it's probably enough to already make the first step, and then going forward, we will need to on that.
For a product certification based on 42001, that does not happen. There is still a gap. There's no way we can change the standard within 5 years. It's going to remain like this. We need to have a scheme, product scheme.
Yes.
That if there's someone who is doing it, that's what we want to know.
Yes. Well, I can talk for Belgium. From my side, I know government is working on the product scheme. That's what I know.
Which government?
It's Belgium.
Okay.
So that's where they're working on the product scheme, and I agree, it's still in progress. We're not there yet. I'm also waiting for what are they going to do for companies that are working in the US. What do they need to do? So what is being expected is that there will be something like the CE labeling, like we have for like your coffee machine and stuff like that, where it needs to adhere to. But it will be more complex, obviously, than something like that. So that's the only comment that I can make to that. Looking for ISO, I'm not aware of anything that's being worked on for now.
Yeah, as far as comment about US is, whether it is US or Europe, in product team, it doesn't matter. There's a GMP,
yeah,
good manufacturing practice, there is a GAP. They're all European, but they're accepted worldwide. But we need some scheme, product scheme, which is accepted by everyone.
Yeah,
I think that is the solution now.
Yes.
I think Soji was about to respond to the first question.
Yeah, I was going to respond to your first question about would there come to a point where because AI would drive the economy, then the law will lower its standards to allow AI to do its job. I don't think we will ever get to that point. I think what would then probably happen is, if you like, a tacit compromise, if you like what she said. The law has been published, but it's taking a while it's going to take a while for the full-blown implementation and the whole world embraces and live with it. We will continue to see that because the law is always behind. The AI has been in the system for many years, and the law has just caught up to come into existence. And even when the law has just caught up to guide and the use of AI, it's even not fully implemented now. So we'll continue to have that lag, but not that the law will be consciously written or crafted to allow AI to have a free reign. No, I don't think we'll ever come. That will probably lead, that's my personal view, it will lead to chaos in the world where there's no law and anybody can do anything. That's just my submission.
Thank you. Thank you. Are we still having time?
I have one question.
Okay.
I've had the thing, but I haven't had a chance to jump up. I want to make a statement first, and then I'm going to ask a question. I think it's our responsibility. Forget the law in the U.S. Just forget it. I don't care what the law says. I really don't. If they say it's not important, it doesn't mean it isn't. And what's happened very often is if the people believe there's enough companies implementing it, then they will follow. So and I think we have power. We don't know who our positions are. People here are leaders. I don't have met anybody here that's not a leader. I myself happen to be on the global leadership board for CDO magazine for the whole world. What allowed me to do is I'm at the meeting and I said, we're not covering ISO 42001. We're not covering this. It's a big problem. The whole world needs to know it. On that, they've asked me to write an article, which is coming out in the next thing, on how to implement ISO 42001 and why. U.S. Cybersecurity Magazine, when I approached their publisher, I said, this is where your magazine is lacking. I'm very careful in my wording. I'm a New Yorker. We just say it as it is. So she said, fine, if you think it's lacking, you write the article and I'll publish it. We have the power. I'm just a person. They don't know me but if you're strong, if you're confident, it comes across. And you believe in it, they'll believe in it. I really believe that. And I've seen it happen. Now I've been asked to speak at several of the CDO conferences going on it. I'm speaking at a conference in Vienna. So because of that, and then also one more thing, I'm also on the leadership board for the CISO Coalition, which is all the CISOs for the whole United States. Kraft, Siemens, all of the CISOs, and I was on because I was the CISO for Louisville. And I have spoken at their conference. They also had a CDO conference, Chief Data Officer, and a Chief Transformation Officer. They asked me to come there. And when I spoke to them, people started taking notes. They said, how can I implement it? I said, how can you implement it today? Is that what you're asking me? He said, I guess. I said, yes, that's the question you're asking me. Let me reword it for you. I said, today you download it. Today you purchase it. Anybody here not have $230 in their budget? Raise your hand. Which company are you planning on leaving? Nobody raised their hand. So therefore, I had so many people who downloaded it and contacted me. Can I connect you on LinkedIn? Can I contact you, ask questions? Sure. I'm not interested in selling it. I'm not interested in training it. I'm interested in changing the country. And then if they choose to, I would love to come in as their trainer. I would love to come in as their consultant. But first I want to change the world. Then I can worry about everything else. And the other thing was very simple. What I did was I said, don't worry about bringing me in. Don't worry about getting a budget. Download it, read it, speak to management. I gave them 10 questions to ask their managers, senior managers, board of directors, broke it out for them very quickly. It took me an hour at the presentation. Then I went down and I simply said, now, after you do that, try to implement it on your own. When you can't, then you bring in someone to do your training so you know what you're doing. And when that's not enough, then you can bring in a consultant. Very simple. And I now have over 30 companies that have gone to their, this is all in 2 months, 30 companies have gone to their board of directors asking to implement it. And I just think that I'm one person. And I think that there's getting the articles out, getting this out, being willing to fly to speak on conferences on my own money. It's something I truly believe in. And I think 42001 is fabulous. I think it's excellent. I think it's an easy checklist, especially if you're applying it along with, but I was originally going at it wrong. I went to the CISOs. They think it's great to implement, but they're going to speak to someone else. The CDOs and the chief transformation officer said, what is that number? One even said to me, I have been fledging to find some information, looking at NIST, it's not there. So my questions to you now is, once this happens, am I telling them the right approach? Should they just download it and try it first? I don't want to be given the wrong information, especially when I'm writing articles on it. I don't even care if my byline. I want the information out. Second of all, we can all change the world. I truly believe that. Second of all, my question is, am I approaching it the right way in getting them to do this? If not, what should I be doing so I can do it even better?
Yeah, I think you're taking the right approach. They say the taste of the pudding is in the eating. So, and it doesn't cost a fortune to a degree for them to have a copy. So if you are seriously thinking about implementing that, go ahead, download the copy, understand, do gap assessment against what you have now, come up with a plan to implement, and then off they go. So I think you are doing the right thing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for that quick response. And I understand we are staying between you and the lunch, and that is a very dangerous position. So let me thank you guys very much for your participation, and to the panelists for the active discussion, and see you again there.